he did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000, with $225,000 going to the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need. And it is just regrettable. Not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route. No response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great, it's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
So hold up. Terence Bud Crawford didn't just make $10 million like he said he did against Canelo. He actually made $50 million. Yeah, that number broke the internet, guys, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a deep dive into this story. Welcome back, guys. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Duality 7X. I'm your host, Sheeraz, and this is where we break down all the biggest fights, all the biggest stories, the wildest rumors, trending stories in the world of MMA, UFC, the wild, wild world of boxing, and, of course, WWE. Guys, if it punches, if it kicks, if it talks trash, we're covering it. So, before we start, guys, please smash the like and subscribe. Join us here on Duality 7X for more real fight talk. And let's get into this crazy, crazy Crawford situation, guys, because this one changes everything. So, do you guys remember when Bud Crawford went into the ring champs with AK and Barack and said, like, you remember the interview that he had with these guys? And remember when he said that he got $10 million for the Canelo fight, and he was talking about, I'm doing it for the legacy, baby. It's not all about the money. And at that time, people were like, dang, $10 million to fight Canelo? That's some serious Masari, guys. But hey, Bud also talked about, and he referred to legacy, right, over money. So we kind of all rolled with it, right? But apparently that wasn't the whole truth. And honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, these contracts can get really, really messy. They're private as well too, and there's not always that full disclosure to the public, right? I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes. Undisclosed things that, fighters like to kind of keep it between themselves and their promoters, their management team, and the full percentages, back end deals, Netflix money, bonuses, all that stuff is kind of like, they like to keep it confidential, but that stuff is all flowing in like crazy money. Okay. So, we like to talk about money, because I think it should be full disclosure as to how much a fighter is getting paid. This is the whole reason of bringing in transparency, accountability, making sure that we have the right kind of promoters, the right kind of governing bodies that kind of help also regulate the industry. So it prevents from illicit money kind of coming into the operations. And this is what a lot of people were fighting for. A lot of people were talking about. This is the reason why a lot of people were saying boxing was getting corrupt, because of all these kind of back-end deals, so to speak, right? But, a part of me understands the nature of the business, and I get the fact that not all money is going to be disclosed. But then on the flip side, I think about it. I'm like, look, I watch a lot of football, hockey, baseball, and all kinds of sports, soccer. When I think about the athletes in these organizations, respectively, I know there's it's all full disclosure to me. I can pull up how much an athlete is getting paid by the club, the organization, any kind of endorsement deals, any other monies that are coming into that individual, their camp. I mean, it's all full disclosure. It's all fully transparent. So why can't that be the same for the world of combat sports? Why can't that be the same for boxing? Right? And so, yeah, I mean, maybe Terence didn't necessarily, maybe he didn't have to disclose fully how much he was getting paid, to these guys during that interview, but at the same time, the difference between 10 million and 50 million is 5 times the difference, right? So that's a huge difference. Unless, and of course, Terence was talking about the money that he was guaranteed, and then the rest of the money they were still kind of finalizing things on. And then I guess when it all settled, when they took into consideration all the money that came in from advertising, from pay-per-view, from endorsement deals, sponsorship, etc., it turned into 5 times the amount that he actually got paid, which is $50 million plus dollars. That's a possibility, right? So, I mean, look, here's why everything kind of flips, right? The WBC, all right, they just revealed that Crawford did indeed make $50 million for his fight against Canelo Alvarez. Not 15, not 20, $50 freaking million, guys. And what's really wild about all this, guys, is most of that extra money wasn't even for the fight itself. It actually came from what I just alluded to, Netflix viewership revenue. It came from the gate money from the T-Mobile arena, right? Now, a lot of that money does come in, it does factor in, gate sales and ticket sales and stuff like that. But no longer is the day where fighters rely on the gate revenue. How many butts and chairs, they call it, right? How many people actually are seated in the arena? I mean, that does play into some factor this day and age, not in prior years, and I'll tell you why. Because in this day and age, just to sit ringside, you're going to be spending umpteens of thousands of dollars. I remember there was a time where somebody said that they spent $1,500 to sit ringside at a UFC fight. And people are like, $1,500? Are you insane? But that $1,500 pales in comparison to what you would fight at a major pay-per-view today. Do you know how much it is to sit ringside to watch Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua in Miami on December 19th? We're talking about $30,000 to $35,000 plus $1,000 just to sit ringside. Can you imagine? What about wrestling? WWE, WrestleMania. Just to watch an event at WrestleMania, and if you're sitting within the first, I think, 2-3 rows, you're looking at about, I heard, anywhere between $25,000 to $35,000 just to sit ringside. And then there's an additional, I think there's an additional amount of money you would spend to go walk the ramp, like the same ramp that the wrestlers would walk, from the dressing room to the arena, to the ring. I think that to walk the ramp, I think, is a $30,000 ticket. Now, I don't know if it's $30,000 that's included, you get that opportunity to walk the ramp, or if it's an additional $30,000. I don't think it's an additional $30,000, but it is some crazy money. And then that too, some people that I follow on YouTube were saying that after dishing out $28,000, $20,000, $30 some $1,000, they didn't even get the opportunity to get the full VIP access where they got the meet and greet with the stars. There are certain kinds of packages, certain kinds of deals, certain kinds of times that you're allowed to go see certain individuals, but to actually get up in front and close to your favorite WWE wrestling stars, you got to pay. Everything is is big bucks now, guys. And I'm just talking about wrestling. And I shared with you what the ticket sales, what the ringside seats are going to be at the Anthony Joshua Jake Paul fight. But now imagine sitting next to one of the biggest boxing events in history. Terence Bud Crawford taking on Canelo Alvarez. I'm pretty sure people paid a lot of money. So, Netflix viewership revenue I was talking about, right? Sponsorship deals, endorsement deals, all the advertising revenue that goes into it, the gate money from the T-Mobile Arena, and a massively reduced WBC sanctioning fee from 3% to 0.6%. That's a sanctioning fee. So that discount alone saved him. And if you guys want to know why that matters, well, the sanctioning fee that the WBC implements, the fighters have to pay. And usually it's about 3%. But in this case, it was reduced down to 0.6%. What that equates to dollars, essentially Terence Crawford saved millions of dollars by not having to pay the full 3% fee. That's a lot of money, guys. That just kind of puts things into perspective a little bit about how big the operations are when it comes to a pay-per-view event. Isn't that crazy? I mean, honestly, guys, like kudos to Terence Crawford for doing, for having that legacy fight, for doing the unimaginable, for doing something that a lot of people didn't think he was going to be able to pull off. He beat Canelo Alvarez, one of the greatest boxers of this generation. So he obviously is going to walk away with his head high, and he's going to walk off with a big check. Not just $10 million. He's going to walk off with a lot of money, enough to make your accountant cry. Not his accountant. I'm sure his accountant is just flabbergasted. So that's some serious moolah, guys. Like, can you imagine? So, like, already there's talks about the Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight. I mean, all of this is going to be worth around anywhere from $200 to $300 million, or even more. Anthony Joshua, when I first broke the story, you can watch my video. The title says 50 million, baby, on the YouTube title. And there's a picture of Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua and money just kind of falling everywhere. $50 million is reportedly what Anthony Joshua is getting paid, guaranteed. But guaranteed, guys, I don't think that takes into account of a lot of other things. I think, honestly speaking, I think Anthony Joshua is going to walk out with a lot more than $50 million. I think easily around 80 million, maybe. For sure, no less than 60 million. But between 60, 80, maybe even $100 million, guys, when it's all said and done. So that's insane money, guys. So that, again, you can put things into perspective of how big the sport of boxing is, how big the world of combat sports is, and why super fights matter. And why, networks like Netflix, Daz, all these people want these fights. They want these fights on their network. Now you know why. So this story isn't just about money, guys. It's about power shifting, okay? The power shift that's happening in boxing, right? You guys already know, if you guys have been watching my videos, I've been talking about Dana White, Turkey Al Sheikh, Paramount, Zuffa Entertainment, UFC, World Wrestling Entertainment. All of these guys have TKO Holdings Group, that runs the World Wrestling Entertainment and UFC. All of these guys getting together and now starting to create super fights. And already you've heard Dana White announce some major fights, 3 big fights for UFC 324, UFC 325 as part of the new deal that he's inked with Paramount. That's worth anywhere from about 7.7 to about $8+ billion. $8 billion plus, guys. Imagine that. So, I want to talk about Eddie Hearn, the legendary promoter. also the promoter for Anthony Joshua. He recently said that Crawford could have made more money fighting Jake Paul instead of Canelo Alvarez. And look, that I agree with. I think that's true. I mean, Jake fights are like printing money, right? But I mean, to hear that Crawford made $50 million without stepping into influencer boxing territory, I mean, that's huge. That's seriously big. And I'm pretty sure it's more than $50 million. Right? Crawford's doing okay. He walked off with a lot of gold, a lot of hardware. He took all the belts. And one of the belts, the ring belt itself, the ring belt was made out of gold, guys. And it was specially minted for this fight. The belt alone was about 140,000 plus euros, if I'm not mistaken. And then he also got a ring, like kind of like a championship ring, kind of the equivalent of like a Super Bowl ring, where it was all encrusted with gold and diamonds. And if you open up the top, you could see where there's like the ring, and then it says Crawford versus Alvarez. I mean, that ring alone is probably worth like umpteens of God knows how much, at least maybe $100,000 or more. So anyways, guys, he walked off with a lot more than just $50 million. I think it's a lot more money than that. But you know what? Yeah, the fact that Crawford was able to make that kind of money without going into shock fighting, like influencer style territory, for just a straight up fight between him and Canelo, good money. I mean, it keeps the sport legit. I mean, it keeps the belts obviously meaningful, right? And Bud himself is just sitting pretty, regardless of the fact, right? So, like, look, did Crawford know that he was going to be making $50 million? Or maybe not. He probably had a feeling, he had an idea that it was definitely going to be more than $10 million. He probably thought he could have been, he probably thought maybe $25, $35 million when it's all said and done. Because you never know how these things play out. Once everything is tabulated and they've taken into consideration all the different revenue streams, and that I'm sure there's an effort of complexity and layers of effort and complexity that goes into that. And then when it's all finalized, and the management team finds out about it, and then the disbursements are made, right? And so yeah, 10 million was probably his base. Yeah, he knows he was going to be guaranteed. And, he tried to avoid, I think it was smart on his part to not talk about more money, because it kind of kept him out of the headlines, kept things kind of quiet somewhat, not letting promoters start sniffing around, his pockets, so to speak. But now that this has come out, a lot of people are going to be talking about it, like we're talking about it, right? And so what if this becomes the new standard of mega fights? Like, I'm talking about 50 million minimum. I mean, we're talking about Netflix deals, crossovers, global streaming money. We're talking about how fighters could potentially start making NFL level contracts soon, or more than NFL, actually, like soccer contracts or MLB. But what if this pushes other champs to chase the Canelo fight even harder? Because now we know the truth. Now we know what these fights can potentially bring in. And this is not new, guys. I remember when Hasim Rahman took on Lennox Lewis and stuff like that, and the amount of money he got paid when it was all said and done. I mean, a lot of big pay-per-views and stuff. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars back then. Right? We're talking about like 20 years ago. But what about now? Or 20, 25 years ago. But now things are changed, man. Things are a lot different now, right? Canelo himself isn't just a big name. He's a generational financial blessing in disguise, I guess, if you want to call it. I mean, anytime you get the opportunity to fight a guy like Canelo Alvarez, it's going to bring in big bucks, right? And I was talking about one of my videos about Hamza Sheeraz is doing all the right things now and setting himself up for a big payday. I mean, if he gets the opportunity to take on like a Bud Crawford or Canelo, that would be huge for his career. He has that one fight and he's done. But And maybe we're going to start to see a lot of early retirement. We're going to see a lot of boxers starting to retire earlier, maybe now. Instead of retiring at the age of 38, 40, maybe we're going to start to see fighters starting to retire at the age of 30, 35, because the money's just too good. Why risk your body? Why risk your mental health, your your brain? Why risk all these things when you can get paid big bucks right off the bat? Anyways, Crawford, in my opinion, deserved the bag. He deserved everything that he got. It was an absolutely incredible fight. I can't wait to watch the next one, if there is a next one. I mean, look, simple as that. He walked out and he did well. Okay, so I don't know what you guys think about this. I don't know if you guys are upset, disappointed, if you guys even care, or if you're already kind of privy to this kind of stuff. If you had a feeling that he was going to be making big bucks, but now that we're talking about how much he actually made, does that kind of change things a little bit for you, or you kind of guessed that it'd be around that? Anyways, what do you guys think? Do you think Crawford deserved the $50 million? Do you think that's absurd kind of money, or do you think that's the new norm? And who do you think Terence Bud Crawford should fight next? Drop your thoughts and comments below, guys. Please make sure to smash a like and subscribe, and join us here for more fight talk. Look forward to catching you guys on the next one.